Welcome to Thriving Rockstar with Alex Rakin. Today's guest is Sahil Makhija of Demon Stealer and Headbanger's Kitchen. How are you doing, Sahil?
I'm doing great, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We actually did a little interview a few months ago, but that didn't air because some technical issues. So I'm glad to have you
Yeah.
back on. So what have you been up to?
Oh, well, not too much actually. It's been a pretty quiet where I am because I've had some things going on. I actually just finished a keto cookbook that I was working on,
Nice.
and following that, my bathroom in the house is being renovated. So I've actually not been able to do much. I've just been sitting idle. So hoping to get back into the swing of things pretty soon. And I'm actually heading out to the UK in a week's time for a heavy metal music conference where I will be a panel speaker. So yeah, that's what's going down.
That's wonderful. So people would have heard some of your bio already in the intro, but just to kind of reiterate, you have a metal band and you're a prominent keto evangelist, if you would, on YouTube, Instagram, and a lot of other social media, and you're rapidly growing on those platforms. So, how did it all start for you? Like, how did the keto thing come about?
Well, so the keto thing started very recently. It's been only about 3 years now.
Hmm.
So I had a YouTube channel called Headbanger's Kitchen that was already doing. I was doing recipes and I was interviewing metal bands, and it was a heavy metal cooking show. I would name the dish after the band that I was going to interview. Like I had Lamb of God on the show, so I made them a black label chicken curry, and I interviewed Mark Morton and Randy Blythe. So that was the format of the show. It started in about 2011, and somewhere around 2016, I kind of, or 15 actually, I said, I'm done with this format because it was taking a lot of my time, but there wasn't much growth on the channel. So I kind of resigned myself to doing cooking videos as and when I felt like with one camera. Because before that, I had a production crew and we had a big setup, and it was a lot of work.
Hmm.
So I said I'm going to just do it as and when I feel like, and just do what I want. And I was doing that, and I started doing the keto diet after a friend of mine and my wife actually did it and lost weight. And I was like, hey man, I'm eating cauliflower pizza. I have got to film this and put this on the internet. This is awesome, you know. And the next thing you know, there are people asking me for more and more recipes. There's suddenly a surge in the viewership, and it kind of it encourages you to do more. So the next thing you know, here I am 3 years later with 300,000 subscribers and doing YouTube full time now. So quite a journey it has been for me.
Yeah, and you mentioned 300,000. You're even cutting yourself short. Last I checked, it was like 340 something thousand, and back in September, I think it was like 270. So that's you have quite some growth on there. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, once you reach the 100,000s, it's all just like small fry. Then you count only
Right.
when it's like 500,000. That's the next one, and then a
Sure.
million.
You know what's crazy? Like there was a YouTuber with like almost 10 million subscribers or something like that, and um, they were on like they had 100,000 to go, and they were counting down on a single day. It's like, so it's just it's crazy how like it just rapidly accelerates. So
Yeah, it does.
yeah. So it's interesting. So what came first? Was it the metal or the kitchen or the cooking for you?
The the metal. The
Hmm.
metal is actually going to be. It's been 19 years since I formed my band. Now this is
Hmm.
our 19th year for the band Demonic Resurrection. That's the one I
Hmm.
play in,
Sure.
and yeah, I guess I've been writing music for about 21 years now, almost. So it's literally like I got into metal towards the end of my schooling years. A couple of friends gave me some Metallica and Iron Maiden and said, "Listen to this and stop listening to the Spice Girls and the Backstreet Boys." And I was actually hooked. That was it. And the moment we finished our school, um, we all decided like we're going to learn an instrument and we'll form a band. Of course, I was the only one in the group that actually followed through on this, like forming a band.
Hmm.
Everyone else just learned some stuff, but nobody ever got around to forming any bands or pursuing music in any way. And after about 2 years of searching for band members, I finally managed to put together the first lineup of Demonic Resurrection in 2000,
Nice.
and there's been no stopping us ever since.
Wow. Yeah. So that's a wonderful thing, man. And at which point did you realize? Well, did you start the cooking channel with the thought like, well, I can't make much money doing the music thing on its own, or how did that come about?
So I mean, I realized quite a while back that I won't be able to make money making death metal music, or at least it was something that was going to take a very long time to sort of make a reality. Um, so I just liked cooking, and
Hmm.
because I was still cooking on the side, at home, and I got a camera phone, and I started taking pictures and uploading like these little recipe notes to Facebook. I got a lot of people, very excited about the food I was making, and YouTube was starting to become really popular around 2008, 2009 in India. We started getting broadband connections. It's just kind of like, things started to fall into place for the show to happen. And I was watching a lot of videos like, Epic Meal Time, the Barbecue Pit Boys,
Hmm.
and of course the usual cooking videos. But those kind of shows, and my band shot its first music video, so I thought to myself, why not make my recipes into videos? Because look at these amazing food videos that people are making. And I asked the director of the video of my band's music video if he would like to collaborate and maybe help me film the videos or something. And he said, yeah, let's do it, but let's make something out of it rather than just a cooking video. Like, it should be something more than that. So that's when I sat down and conceptualized Headbangers Kitchen. And again, it was literally, so for me, everything I did in my life was uh, a sort of auxiliary to promoting the band that I was in. So even
Hmm.
Headbangers Kitchen, as much as I love to cook and as much as I love to uh, do the show, the primary takeaway would always be that people are going to watch the show, they're going to know that I have a band, and hopefully they're going to check the band out.
Sure.
So it's something I enjoy doing. So it's not it was a fun thing, and at the end of the day, it does in some way promote the band as well. So I was
Hmm.
like, sure, let's do this.
And you found
And that's
you found a creative way to do that by putting the music in the background. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually do that. I actually used the music of all the bands I had on the show. But
Hmm.
it is a trickle down at the end of the day.
Yeah.
To like I interviewed Lamb of God. I was pretty sure, their fans will watch the interview. They will see, okay, this guy, and at the end, obviously, it says that I play in these bands or whatever. So in some way, shape, or form, they may care to,
Right.
explore beyond that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an awesome thing, man. And it's funny because I'm in a way doing the same thing here. I'm very passionate about health and the things that I talk about on the show and entrepreneurship and such, and these ventures, as you're doing here. But fundamentally, yeah, I am about promoting my band Infinite Spectrum for them, to be out there because prog, just like death metal, is just not really commercially viable for really making a living on these days, or unless you're
Yeah.
really at the top of those rungs. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And
hmm.
you got to find creative ways, to kind of stick out and get known, because I mean, the music industry is not the way it used to be. It wasn't, it's not as simple as it was. Like, if you look at the bands also today, when it comes to selling their music, I mean, bands have got wine and beer and pasta, and
Right.
like the amount of stuff that they put out under the band name, like,
Hmm.
uh, and you got to you can't there's nothing you can do about it. It has to be done. You have to evolve or die, as they say.
Sure. Now, this is going to be kind of, wrapping on the same thing as I do in a few of these episodes so far. But where we are in the music industry these days, we lost the ability to really make a living selling music because people download and people more streamed these days. Um,
Yeah,
but we have an access to our audience more than ever, ever since
absolutely.
social media, right? And that allows us to take entrepreneurial ventures, and we have a particular market to shoot at, who have a high level of buy-in with us. So if we make something that they would participate in or buy or whatever it is, that could be very viable, and even a small audience could be enough to make it buy. Like there's Patreon and things like that these days as
Yeah,
well. Um,
yeah,
you have a cookbook, so
yeah,
so I help people with kind of meal plans on the road and things like that, and training on the road. So there's different ways of going about things. And I think we have to get more and more creative.
yeah, absolutely.
hmm So as far as diet's concerned, you're obviously eating keto.
You could say right now I'm a bit more low carb than I am keto.
Okay, okay. And when you're on the road with, um, I'm sorry, like your band,
Demonic resurrection.
yeah, demonic resurrection. I said demon stealer at the beginning of the interview. Sorry about that. So with
No, so I do actually go under the moniker of Demon Stealer. So I actually have my entire solo material under that name. So it's quite legit.
That's what threw me off. Yeah. So cool. Yeah. So when you're touring as a musician, how do you handle that?
So, well, the honest truth is I don't diet when I'm on the road, you know.
hmm
I At this point in my life, I'm unfortunately not touring as much as I would like to.
hmm
Being from India, and just with some general, I guess, bad luck, I haven't had the opportunity to do 20 to 30-day tours, straight up on the road
hmm
and do that multiple times in a year. If I'm lucky, I will make one trip every 2 years to the UK or Europe, play maybe about 10 to 12 shows at best.
mm
Uh, Even though I may be gone for an entire month because it's just the way things are sort of planned out. But so during those times, I never really diet or think about what I'm going to eat. I just, because it is quite a bit of sort of it's painful. Like if you're driving out in the middle of the night and the only thing is that's open is a McDonald's, the last thing you want to do is like think about diet. It's like you're like just I just played a killer gig. I want to just I don't care about the food. I'm just going to eat my whatever burger and fries and be content. And I also, when I do travel, whether it's on vacation or on tour, I travel with the purpose of eating,
mm
because I am a food lover. So
Right.
I break no bones about it. I do love my food. And
hmm
I will be more than happy to break my keto diet at that time and
hmm
enjoy myself. And then when I come back home, I'm, back on the wagon and following up with what I do.
Right. I think what's great about eating keto in particular, or even low carb, but particularly keto, is it stabilizes your blood sugar, right? And
Yeah.
so if you're fat adapted, after months of eating in that way, when you go out even for a few weeks, the effect on your body is not a harsh one, right?
So I think that, I mean, this is stuff that I keep discovering as we go along. Like there are a lot of people who once they start eating keto, when they do switch over to carbs, they do suffer quite a bit. They don't,
Mm,
the body doesn't really react in the right way, or it's not really comfortable actually. But for me, I haven't had that issue, and I think that has a lot to do with just the way I'm wired. Like a lot of people say, I don't feel good anymore when I eat carbs. I get all my body aches and pains, and
mm,
I have been lucky to not have any of those ailments or
mm.
things. So I think I have that metabolic flexibility is what they call it, when you're
Sure.
able to switch between eating carbs and eating fat and not really suffer through it.
Right. I think what
Uh,
we have to consider the fact that a lot of people go keto for maybe autoimmune reasons, or they already suffer
yeah,
with pain, and so if they go keto and that goes away, then that's bound to come back if they're reintroducing some of
yeah.
these things. hmm
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is also what are the carbs people are eating. Like if you're
mm
coming from the standard American diet, which is loaded up on sugar and
hmm
processed foods, it's gonna. and if you go back to that, that's a totally different, thing as to going back to say if you're an Indian like me and you go back to eating your rice and dal, your
Mm,
pulses and your because if you actually look at it, the Indian diet is fairly healthy. There's nothing wrong with it. And
hmm
like I personally, like I've mentioned this the last time we spoke, I don't like to demonize carbs the way a lot of keto people do. It's like, oh, carbs are the devil, and you're going to really suffer if you eat them. And the truth is, just like on keto, we have good fats and bad fats. We
hmm
also have the same when it comes to carbs. There are good carbs and there are bad carbs.
hmm
If you're going to eat some white rice with some home cooked lentils, that's
hmm
not bad. If you're going to eat a donut, yes, that's a different story.
Right. So one thing I like about keto culture, if you will, because there's obviously a whole culture around it on the internet, um, is that people tend to pay special attention to what you were saying, good fats, bad fats, fast digesting carbs and not. And they're a lot more mindful about what they eat and about what's good for you and what's not, to a greater degree than a lot of other dieters, from my observation at least. Those guys at Keto Connect also,
Yeah.
they do a great job with that. A lot of self
Yeah, I think it's
experimentation.
it's Yeah, yeah. I think it's the nature of the diet itself, simply because if you don't watch what you eat, you're not going to be in ketosis. And
Right.
that automatically puts you in this your whole mindset is this going to kick me out of keto, or is it not going to kick me out of keto? So you and that's good, because it's about time people got mindful of reading the labels on the food.
Mhm.
At least to know, what, as long as you're aware, and if it becomes a habit for you, that's great. That's the takeaway from this, I feel.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's totally the case. So, how early did you get into cooking and food?
So I got into food much before I did metal, obviously.
Um,
So when I was a kid, I loved eating good food,
mm,
and for some reason, I started cooking. My earliest memory is cooking at around the age of 10, I
mm,
think. It was a family vacation, and I made breakfast for about 13 people, eggs different ways.
wow.
Uh, yeah, that's my earliest memory, and I do remember wanting to even be a chef when I was around, I think, 12 years old, maybe. Yeah,
hmm
because at that time we had something called a hobby period in our school.
Mm,
So I had taken cooking as a hobby during that time. So we had, two classes where you just go to the home science room and you'd cook, and then you'd take it to all the teachers in the staff room and have them taste your food.
hmm
So I think I had actually charted out a course for myself. I was going to go to catering college, then work in a restaurant for a couple of years, and then open my own place.
Wow.
Of course, this was actually very short lived, because by the time I reached the ninth grade, I was totally into computers and I wanted to become a computer engineer. So it's about 2 years of my life. I wanted to be a chef. And then, yeah, I mean, I guess I got into metal and music, and the cooking just kind of stayed there as a background thing.
hmm
And now it's come back and it's become my profession. So
Yeah. Okay. So, what happened with the computer thing?
yeah, so the computer thing lasted for about 2 years till I finished my high school.
hmm
And then I got into metal. So I was like, I want to make music. And at the same time, when I joined college, which is actually high school for you guys,
Mm,
we call it junior college here in India. I had to choose a vocational subject, and
hmm
for some reason, they gave me the electronics division instead of computers. And that, along with my newfound love for metal and wanting to be a musician, just spiraled me downwards academically into into an abyss from which I never really came out. So yeah, I flunked my first year in electronics. Barely got through what you guys call high school, doing commerce, which was another field.
mm.
And then when I joined college in my first year, I just said, this is not for me. I dropped out and I joined a recording studio as a trainee and started working and learning on the job.
Okay. So, you joined a recording studio doing like engineering or what?
Yeah. So as a sound engineer, I mean, most of the first year was adjusting the mic stand and plugging in
Yeah.
headphones for
Yeah. Assistant
for
engineer stuff. Uh huh.
Yeah, so I was basically learning on the job. It was recording, jingles and voiceovers. It wasn't like nothing to do with metal and stuff, but
Yeah.
uh, again, in those days, I don't think there was anyone making a career out of recording bands, whether they were
Mm.
metal or otherwise, because
Hmm.
um, yeah, but it was mostly studio stuff, commercial jingles and voiceovers and songs and stuff like that.
Sure. And
Yeah.
what happened to that?
So I did that for about 4 years, till about 2006, and then the studio that I was working in actually shut down because the business wasn't doing too well. It was like a professional home studio,
Mm.
um, and then I just kind of got a job with this company called Furtado's Music, who were basically the importers of musical instruments
Hmm.
in India. They would import brands like PRS, Yamaha, Gibson, Mapex, Pearl drums, etc., pianos, all kinds of stuff. And they had two music stores as well. So they were looking for an artist relations and events and social media kind of guy to handle basically dealing with the local music scene. And since I had been a part of it by then for like 6 years, and I had organized concerts and I started my own record label and all on the side,
Hmm.
they said, why don't you join us? And I worked with them actually for 11 years after that. So
Wow.
yeah, so they were basically my bread and butter till Headbangers Kitchen came to the point where I could say, hey guys, thanks, but I quit.
Wow. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's funny because our paths have crossed in that kind of way. I went to audio school actually,
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, and I recorded people for a while. I thought that I'd have a job in that. When I was
Yeah.
17, I was like, oh, why don't I work on the other side of the glass? Um,
Yeah.
and then I realized that all the engineers are like freelance, and that didn't amount to much. But I still use that info to like say build guitar tones and things like that.
Yeah, I mean that's a skill that you should always have because
Mm.
it's a cost saving skill also, if you can
Oh,
do a lot of your basic stuff yourself.
yeah. Hmm.
So I that's also something I did on the side. So you could say I've been hustling for the last like 18 years.
Sure.
I have a recording setup. So I used to record bands back in the day when I just started out. Like the moment I had learned to record my own music, I started recording bands for extra pocket money. Then obviously, as I joined the sound engineering, as a profession, I got better. So I started recording bands. So in fact, till about 2 years ago, I was still recording and producing bands from time to time in my home studio.
Mm. Yeah,
Apart from my own music, yeah, as well.
exactly. You do what you got to do. That's a lot of artists. They get kind of stubborn to want to do their music the way they want to do it and ignore the fact that the industry works in a certain way. And
Yeah.
if you're not zigging like they're zigging, you're zagging when they're zigging. It's essentially you're not going to do so well. So
Yeah.
and you do what you need to do to get by, but you kept it together and you stayed with the band.
Yeah.
So
Well,
mhm.
yes. As much as the band could stay with me.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. But still, I mean, it's still there, and you're still making music. You're keeping the dream alive. But cooking seems
Yeah.
to be like as much as of a passion to you as the music, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do enjoy it. Like, I can't imagine doing anything else. If I have to do something, I definitely think I've got a nice. I'm in a nice place right now. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So it's like you feel like you're really contributing in a meaningful way. Um, what has been the biggest feedback that you've received has sort of like affirmed your direction?
I don't think there's anything in particular. I just think the fact that what I do seems to help people, and
Hmm.
people seem to be happy to get the recipes, and they tell me that my recipes have helped them a lot, and I'm always glad to hear that. If you're able to be there and help people in the process and enjoy doing what you do, I think that's quite a privilege to actually have.
Right, right. While we're on that topic, I'm sure you've gotten plenty of praise, and that's felt great, I'm sure,
Yeah.
and was affirming to the whole project. Now, with your number of followers, there's always trolls, right?
Yeah.
How has that been?
It's been interesting because I mean there are the occasional, like, and I say occasional because it's very rare
Hmm.
that there'll be somebody who's just outright abusive or just literally there to say you suck, but that's
Mm,
very few and far between. If in fact I think my channel has a fairly decent amount of, like, if you actually go through the comments, and I haven't deleted any,
hmm,
you'll see that it's literally like 99% positive stuff.
mm,
um, More than trolls, I think there are just people who sort of very confidently, comment on things they are not very well clued into. Like, somebody
mm.
will come and say, "This is not keto." I'm like, why? Can you explain it? Could you give
Right.
me some argument? And yeah, I think, and yes, of course, how can I forget the overly religious Christians from specifically America, it seems,
Right.
who are very disturbed by me just going horns up and welcome to Headbangers Kitchen.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't get it.
And I'm like, is your faith that weak that a simple hand gesture is turning you upside down in your mind? Like, even if I am invoking the devil, how does it bother you? Like, you got your Jesus in your temple. Maybe I want to invoke Satan in my house. It's my, wish.
That's
Although I
by
should state,
yeah.
yeah, I should state for the record that I'm not a Satanist. I'm an atheist. I don't really believe in,
I
all
figured
these
that.
man. Yeah, and I still can't imagine people believing in this stuff. Grown ass people, but what, to each his own.
I think people have different things that they root themselves in and what helps them function properly in the world, right? And so for some it's the faith, for some it's say mindfulness or some other practice, for some it's metal.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Right. Whatever makes you good with other people is fine by me.
Yeah, honestly, I don't care if you're religious. If you want to go to the temple, church, mosque every weekend, every day of your life, nobody cares. As long as you're a good human being, you're okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we covered some diet stuff. How about fitness? How do you approach that? You've lost some weight since we last spoke.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, the truth is I've never really been big on fitness.
Hmm.
Like, it's one of those things that's like a chore that you don't want to do, but
Mm.
somehow you know that you kind of have to do it. So I guess you could say I've had phases of fitness. Even before keto, there was a time when I went to the gym, but then I gave it up, and there was a time where I would go to the beach for a run every day, and there was a time where I would do exercises. So I've had my on and offs with working out, and it's the same. But keto drew me in because I was sold the idea that you could lose weight without exercise,
Hmm.
which is true. You can lose weight without exercise, but whether you can get into shape without exercise, that's a different ball game. You can't,
Mm.
you know. And it's kind of like I reached my goal weight, looked in the mirror, I saw a smaller version of my old self, and I realized, you know what? Yeah, you look like a dehydrated grape. You- when you're fat, you're a grape. When you lost the weight, you're like a raisin. But you're not going to build any muscle. You're not going to look, you know, because I think everyone or a lot of people, when they imagine themselves losing weight, they automatically imagine their body reshaping as well.
Mm.
They, like, you don't realize that you're just going to shrink down to the same version of your fatter self. And if you're really obese, you're going to have things like loose skin or whatever.
Mm.
But I think people envision, like, oh, maybe, slowly my six pack is going to show up, my biceps are going to like look, more like, well, muscular or something like that. And then you get the realization that, okay, you just lost weight, you haven't done anything else.
Hmm.
So I think I kind of realized that when I have started working out since the last 6 7 months.
Hmm.
Again, like, there are these on and off phases, but I've stuck to it. So I have been working out. So I do see that definition starting. I feel like my shoulders are a little popping a little more.
Hmm.
The arms are looking a little bit more in shape.
Sure.
So I think that's something I'm starting to get into now more than I was earlier.
Sure. And that's something that, you can get into gradually. People who kind of leap into that too quickly could get injured, especially if they have little experience with it or if their body is not used to it. So, kind of
Yeah.
gradually doing some stuff and building a foundation and then getting into some more of it and making it not feel like a chore, right? Um,
Yeah.
Getting into it for the sake of the dopamine and all these things that come about when we exercise. Then there's no rush. There's no rush. As long as you're already maintaining a healthy diet. That's the main thing, I would say. That's at the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then you can gradually up the fitness, and that's fine. People kind of see it backwards. Oftentimes, they're like, oh, they chronically work out, but then they don't eat quite right.
Yeah, if you don't, if like, I think all the trainers who are knowledgeable will tell you that diet is at least 70% of your fitness,
Hmm.
and the third exercise is just 30%.
If even, yeah, if
Yeah,
even. I think hormones are way underrated. Not that you should take hormones, but like
yeah,
that your behavior should optimize your hormones in some fashion. You should optimize hormones because there's been studies where people with one level of testosterone and others with kind of a higher level, those with the lower testosterone who would diet and train in similar way, um, they would have much less results than those
yeah,
who just have just a little bit more test in their body. So
yeah. And,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
I think hopefully if you're eating right, and if you're eating right and if you're exercising, that also I think plays a part in fixing any hormonal issues that you
Mhm.
have to some extent.
Definitely,
Like,
definitely.
unless you've got like an extreme case where you need to do more beyond that, but I think for a
Mhm.
normal person that kind of also balances it out, that you're
Sure.
eating the right kind of food and you're getting in the regular exercise. That also helps,
Definitely. Keto is
improve your
mhm.
hormone.
Keto. If people do that, it has shown to help hormonally because of the healthy fats and stuff that are in the diet. Um,
Yeah,
there are certain diets that don't help with with the hormones, and sometimes and I have nothing against people who are going vegan and things like that, um,
yeah,
but I don't think that's as optimal for that particular purpose, I guess. Um,
yeah.
so on that same kind of topic, like another thing that's important for hormones is sleep. How's your sleep?
Oh, I sleep like a baby.
Awesome. Yeah. Is there a particular schedule you follow? How do you go about
Well, I'm generally in bed by 11:30,
it?
and I'm up by 7:30. So I get about 7 to 8 hours of sleep, which is, I think, more than sufficient.
That should have been silenced. Sorry about that. Just a sec.
No worries.
Okay. Okay. So you said so you get about 7 to 8 hours of sleep, or just repeat that again so I can just kind of
Yeah,
cut
I
that
will.
down. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, so I make sure that I'm in bed by about 11 or 11:30 on most days, and I'm up by about 7 or 7:30 in the morning. So I get in a good about 7 to 8 hours of sleep at least on a daily basis.
That's very good.
When I was younger, I'd stay up much later in the night. I'd wake up earlier, crazy musician life, studio engineer. I think also the fact that I'm lucky to be doing this for a living allows me to actually not stress about getting enough sleep. Like, I get up early because I enjoy the mornings,
Mm.
but I could actually sleep in for 10 hours a day if I wanted. Like,
Do you nap?
yes, sometimes in the afternoon. Yeah, once I'm done shooting an episode of Headbangers Kitchen, I'm like, yeah, the files are copying. I'm gonna take a nap.
Yeah, all the say what's that, the render times and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, just get some shut eye just for fun because I can.
Sure, sure. Then that's good. It's good to have the liberty to do that. Um, so what does your schedule look like generally, if it has any consistency?
Well, most days I get up, I have a cup of coffee, and I go through all the various social media that I need to, reply to comments, check out what people are saying, maybe do a live stream in the morning on Instagram. And then I will generally go shopping to the supermarket or the vegetable guy or get that done. And then if I'm shooting an episode, just before lunch, I'll shoot. I'll edit it maybe the same day or the next day in the morning in the time that I would be shooting an episode.
Hmm.
And then in the evening, I have another cup of coffee. I go down and play some drums. And some point during all this, I find time to cook some food as well. And
Hmm.
yeah, that's pretty much it. It's like very simple. And then my wife's home, and then we just chill out, watch Netflix, and talk, and then go to sleep.
Okay. So
Really?
when you cook for the episode, is that food for you to eat?
Yeah, 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 of course.
Yeah, there you go.
Two birds with one stone.
That's right. That's awesome. Cool, very cool. So you basically have a kind of a very set schedule. You're more productive in the first half of the day more, right?
Well, yeah, you could say that. I count all of it as productive. Like the
Sure.
evening is my time to go and
Right,
play some
right.
drums in the studio or
Sure.
write a song if I feel
Hmm.
like it or record something. So yeah, I'm productive till about 7 p.m.
Okay. It's interesting that you place the music in the evening and the all this the technical production stuff for the Headbangers Kitchen in the first half of the day because do you know the science behind the way the brain works a little bit at different times of day?
Yeah, I don't know. I've actually never looked into that, and yeah, I have no idea.
So I mean, you naturally kind of fell into the pattern there because, like, from what I read, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments here, but like, I think at night the left brain kind of slows down and kind of shuts down a little earlier than the right brain does, and usually the left brain dominates over the right. But the right brain is a creative one, so there's a point at which you hit this creative space in the evening, and that's when you kind of take advantage of that for the music.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I can't say I particularly felt that, like, because when I say
Hmm.
evening, I'm done by like 7 p.m.
Okay,
So yeah, like I mean, there were days back in the day where I'd be up in the night at like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. just writing music, and I'd be up till 4 recording it, and yeah, my creative time was in the night. But right now, it's like, give me the morning any day.
sure, sure. That's interesting. Yeah, but do you take days off, or how do you go about things?
I mean, there are days where I don't feel like doing anything and I just want, but I don't necessarily say I'm taking this day off, but like, because if you got to work, you got to work, like, sometimes I may do like no recipe shooting for an entire week because I'm just not inspired or I can't find the recipe that I want. And then I'll do like two, three in a row because I've just got that momentum going and then I'm sorted for a while. So,
Hmm.
but I definitely do try and maintain a certain schedule that I know that, okay, maybe try and do at least two videos a week or one video a week. And, then there's, again, because it's cooking, there's a lot of recipe development when it comes to like keto desserts and keto uh, things like, yeah, basically things that need experimenting,
Sure.
especially dishes I may have never done before. So
Hmm.
yeah,
As your
kind
work.
of, it's kind of like I take it as I go.
Okay, so when you're creating some recipe or you're working on something, I'm sure you get inspired, right? And you kind of write down some ideas.
Yes,
Where do you keep your notes?
in my email, in the draft, I have one draft email which has just all the names of the dishes that I have to still cook.
Okay, okay, that's an interesting thing. For me, I use Evernote. You know Evernote?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Yeah, yeah. I just like the folder things in there, and it works out pretty well.
Yeah, since mine is just dishes, I just put it in an email draft. It's just there, all of it.
That works. That works. You can
Yeah.
load it up from anywhere. Very cool. Very cool. So let's kind of discuss your bit of a personal thing, but like emotionally. Do you ever get like depression or anything like that?
Yes, definitely have gone through a lots of ups and downs, and I
Hmm.
think most of it for me stems from music related stuff, rather than Headbangers Kitchen, and
Hmm.
a lot of it probably has to do with maybe my expectations of the music scene and from fans and things like that. Because That's largely where I guess any of it stems from for me.
Hmm.
With Headbangers Kitchen, I think mostly is it's just everything's going so good right now that it's you put out a video, there are people who want to watch it, they're sharing it, they're commenting. With the music, it's a lot more of a struggle, and that I think has a lot of like what plays in me not feeling good about things, because
Mm.
I think I've also invested way more in that. Headbangers Kitchen just kind of happened. I didn't want to do this. I don't want to be a YouTuber. I don't want to make recipe videos for a living. I don't want to be a keto person on the interwebs, but it
Hmm.
just kind of happened, and it's something I'm rolling with.
Sure.
But whereas with the music, I think it's, I've invested 19 years of my life,
Mm.
constantly. I've sent like every year, sent hundreds of emails to record labels, to festivals. And I think that kind of gives you that anxiety of like, is anyone going to reply? Are we going to be able to book a tour? Are we going to get any festivals? Is anyone going to listen to the songs?
Hmm.
Why aren't we selling as many CDs as, before? Or so all that stuff weighs a lot
Mm.
more on me than anything to do with the cooking stuff. So
Right.
yeah,
And,
definitely gone through that.
and how have you dealt with those feelings? Like, do you ever seek any help, or did you kind of handle it on your own?
Yeah, so I generally I've reached this point where basically go to sleep. you know, you
Yeah.
you wake up and tomorrow's a new day, and I generally feel better in the morning, like because it's for me, I think it's a bit cyclic. Like, today, okay, I haven't sold a single T-shirt of my band today. I'm getting frustrated. I don't have some work to do, so I'm also sitting idle, perhaps. So, I'm trying to find a way I can promote the CDs or the T-shirts and get them to move. Why aren't more people listening to this song? I think
Mm.
that plays a lot of uh, a big role in my cycle of anxiety or depression or whatever you want to call it. And when the day is over and you go to sleep and the next day you feel okay, today's a new day,
Sure.
it's better, I'm more productive.
Hmm.
I used to often go on these Facebook rants and Twitter messages, and uh, my wife kind of gave me a talking down to about that stuff, and I think that really helped in just realizing that every time you feel something, maybe just talk to someone else about it instead, like rather than
Mm.
go on Facebook and try and get that validation
Mm.
from, and it just makes you look worse than you actually are, because that's not who
Right.
you are.
Sure.
You're not that person who's out there trying to just like whine and cry about things. So yeah, a lot of these things, and it helps to have a family that cares and is willing to listen to you and talk to you if you ever need to talk about anything.
Right. Yeah, no, that's it's a great thing, having a support circle, and
Yeah.
how has your wife been in supporting you all this on this journey?
No, she's been fabulous. I mean, like I think that's one thing. I don't generally believe in karma and all that. I think people make their own way in life. But this is one thing that I am very lucky. The parents I have been, given to, and my wife, and my brother, of course. But like a family that really has let me do pretty much everything I've ever wanted since I was young.
Mm.
And without them, I don't know if I would have been here today, like doing what I do.
Sure.
That freedom is something a lot of kids I have seen over the years as a metal musician. A lot of kids don't have that. They struggle with their parents' expectations and what their parents want of them, and even
Hmm.
just simple things like just listening to that kind of music is a chore. It's done in the dead of night.
Right.
uh, so yeah, that way I've definitely been very lucky to have uh, my family.
That's good. They've been very supportive. And they've been supportive of your band or what?
Yeah, everything. Like
Everything.
my parents, allowed me to write "fuck your god" and "bastard of Christ" on my cupboard. So I don't think it gets cooler than that.
Nice. Yeah, I caught your dad on the show eating something of yours.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's
That's awesome.
regularly making appearances on the show.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, no, it's awesome, and I hope that that keeps going for you. So, how is your band? How have those metrics improved since Headbangers Kitchen has gone become more notable? Like how has that affected the sales in the band and things like that?
So I don't think it's actually affected. Surprisingly, it's not affected the band at all. I think. I think it's because I think most of the people who follow my channel are still just they're there for the keto stuff. They're not there for the metal.
Mm,
The I mean, I'm sure there are people who discovered my band through Headbangers Kitchen, but
mhm,
it's not such a significant number that it's made me see any visible difference in the stats of the band or anything like that. Though I
mm.
keep pimping my music on Headbangers Kitchen all the time. I'm sure they're all sick of it, but hey, that comes with the territory, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a cool touch to your channel in general. Just like, everything about it, you're cooking this like delicious looking Indian food and it's keto and you have metal playing in the background and you have your crazy
Yeah,
voice at the same time. Like, so it's just, it's entertaining if nothing else. Like
yeah,
I found myself watching some of those videos, not even like intending to cook. So, and I think that's
yeah,
the whole thing. So you've struck a nerve on the internet and,
yeah. Well, I'm glad to.
yeah, and I think that's important. We live in a time where you never know what could really surface, what can viralize, or you know, and you need to be able to catch a wave if you see one, and just kind of go with the gut there. What would you say, bro? What would you say regarding that?
Yeah, I think that's very true. But I think a lot of people who catch the wave don't really know they're on the wave even,
Mm,
like keto was a wave for sure, but I had no idea it was coming and I had no intention of riding it. It
right.
just kind of swept me off my feet and it's like, yeah, buddy, you're on now. I'm like, okay, that's cool, you know
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you caught something early in the game, and kind of came up with it.
yeah.
And hopefully hopefully you keep going because all tides that go up also fall as
Yeah,
well,
and
you know. Mhm.
and that's a very realistic attitude to have, because we today keto is, yeah, okay, everyone wants to do keto because keto is like the quick and easy weight loss solution where you can eat tons of fatty meats and cheese and butter. But 5 years from now, who knows what diet? I mean, already you can see people like from keto starting to deviate into this carnivore
Yeah.
space.
Hmm.
So like,
What's
who
your
knows
take on
what's going
that?
to be. So I did it for a while. I don't really personally think it's something I would ever want to do long term.
Hmm.
I just find it too restrictive. I also think it's unlike keto, it's still not researched well enough.
Hmm.
And while people are reaping some benefits in the short term,
Hmm.
uh, we are yet to see uh, a long term impact of that way of eating.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm sure there's a right way and a wrong way of doing carnivore as well. People who are just going to be eating sirloin steaks are probably not doing it right. The
Right.
guy who's eating the entire animal, right from the short rib
Mm.
to the lungs to the liver to the heart to the kidneys, that's the guy who's doing it right. Because at the end of the day, whatever diet, whether you're doing vegan, carnivore, paleo, you need to get in all your nutrition,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are going to be having to look for some kind of man-made supplement for it, which the whole purpose of having a good diet is that you don't need to rely on supplements for things. And I'm pretty
Right.
sure, at some point we were able to eat a diet where we didn't require supplements, because I'm pretty sure there were no pill manufacturers back in the day.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, people lived perfectly healthy lives, like you said, eating the whole animal or just having a variety. But I
Yeah.
think we need to pay attention to classical wisdom, if you would, because we have millennia of research in a way, with our cultural ways of eating. We figured out,
Yeah.
what needs to be there. I see more and more often like shows just sort of breaking down scientifically like all these diets that are just traditional and how they have included everything that needs to be in a diet. Just over time people figured out, oh, okay, this helps keep you regular, this helps keep your blood good, and all that kind of stuff, and it just became like the cultural dishes.
Yeah,
So
and I think a
yeah.
lot of it is also based on like the diets are based on where people live.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Indian diet is different from the diet in say Germany, or the
Mm-hmm.
diet in Japan.
Of
And
course.
I think those diets are there for a reason. It's like E- which is why I say you can do keto because obviously food has changed over the years. The
Hmm.
reason you got fat or unhealthy is not because you ate the standard diet of your ancestors. It's because you ate all that junk food. It's the
Right.
McDonald's and the Burger Kings and the
Hmm.
Domino's and all the fast food that you've been stuffing your face with.
Right.
It's the convenience of walking into a supermarket and getting exactly what your heart desires at that very moment.
Right. Right.
That's what's changed, which is why I say the carbohydrates are not the enemy. Like Italians ate pasta and pizza for years. Nobody died of obesity. They ate 3 meals a day. They did no problem. But why did the problem start? Well, because you took pizza, you made it 14 inches, you added you know 2 handfuls of pepperoni, 4 handfuls of cheese, made it a double XL. You made that 600 calorie pizza into 2000 calories or 2500 calories, and then you just made it like you we created that. We didn't, like
Right.
pasta was simple. Pasta was not cream and dollops of cheese and richness. It was home cooked food.
Hmm.
So it's the same with Indian food, same with Japanese food, same with everything. I
Hmm.
think it's none of this was like meant to, even British food, for all the pies and the chips and the fish and all. It worked in their meals. And then when it got supersized into all the stuff it is now, it
Hmm.
changed.
Right. I think we have just a rapidly accelerating progress in society, in some ways regress, right? Because we don't know how to deal with that, right? We don't know how to
Yeah.
deal with these new variables. Things are rapidly changing, and even with the fast food being introduced, we've been able to create ingredients that weren't even ingredients that existed prior to that, chemically induced, so it's like we've messed around with nature, and we're feeling the repercussions of that, and kind of there's a movement back to the land, if you would, right?
Yeah, I think where our technology is evolving a little faster than our
Mm.
bodies are. And I don't remember which show this was on Netflix I was watching, but I've forgotten his name also, the writer. But basically, it was an episode about bread,
Mm.
and it was very simple. He said, "Why do we have so many gluten allergies after all these years? People ate bread for so long.
Mm.
Nobody had gluten. No one was gluten intolerant.
Mm.
It's just simple. Bread is 4 ingredients: salt, water, flour, yeast. If you pick up a bread in the supermarket, there are 30 ingredients in it. You know,
Mm.
that's the problem. The problem is not bread. You're not gluten intolerant because of the bread. You're gluten intolerant because what bread has become.
Mm.
You know, and
Right.
I think with keto and paleo and low carb in general, what happens is we stop eating these versions of food. Like
Right.
you're not you're hopefully, and you can see that the people who do keto, when they're eating whole foods and when they're eating, you can't take chicken and make chicken with 31 ingredients now. It's chicken. A raw chicken is a raw chicken.
Hmm.
you know and I
Yeah.
think keto makes you remove those 31 ingredient breads and cookies and all that from your life. So it's that, I think, what really helps you take your health back more than anything else, to be honest.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And what we were saying before, just by kind of paying attention, we start to omit all these things and start to eat healthier versions of things. It's like, because there's nothing unketo, if you would, about having, say, sunflower oil, but we figured out,
Yeah.
oh, you know what, that contributes to inflammation and all of that, and then reducing that, because we've become mindful of that just by
Yeah.
the benefits of the diet itself, or
Yeah,
just. Mhm.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, no. It absolutely, it makes you like, even for those who may not do keto long term, you're definitely gonna take away things like, okay, the vegetable oils are bad, no matter which way you look at it.
Mhm.
Even if I'm eating carbs, I can eat healthier carbs. If
Mhm.
I'm eating fats, I'm gonna make sure that, like for me personally, if I said, I've been doing more low carb than keto,
Mhm.
but there are things that will never happen. There will never be margarine in my house.
Mhm.
I won't be cooking in vegetable oil.
Right.
You know, I'm not going to be afraid to eat the chicken with the skin on. I'm not going
Mhm.
to, worry about eating the entire animal. So a lot of things, like you definitely learn things, and there are definitely things you will take away from any diet that you do, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. That's lesson from that, I guess, is just be more mindful of what you eat,
Yeah.
essentially,
And the
right?
other the other one is that fitness is forever.
Right, right.
You're going to constantly work on your diet and fitness literally till the day you die.
This is true. This is true. Do you meditate?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, that was a simple one. Did you ever intend to or wanted to try it out? Huh?
Nope, never. I just That's not something I really buy into.
Okay.
I mean, I get like why people do it and
Hmm.
how they benefit from it, but
Sure.
me personally, if I've got an hour of time, I think my for me drumming is my meditation.
Okay. So you have a flow state activity, because which is that's like a form of meditation in a way. Is
Yeah,
it? Mhm.
if you can call it that, it's my time.
Sure. You like zone into something, and it's like
Yeah,
there's nothing else happening. You're not distracted. The
yeah,
the great thing about playing music in particular, music is kind of fixed to a grid of time, and as we
yeah,
play, to the music, you can't be distracted. Otherwise, you can't keep up, right?
yeah,
And so, or at least play artfully and all that. So you have to pay attention constantly. So it
yeah.
becomes, like you said, like a form of meditation, and you don't need like a formal sitting kind of meditation.
Yeah, and like I said, I think for me, yeah, if I do have to meditate, I'd take a nap.
Okay. Well, yeah, nap is plenty effective at restoring focus and all those things. So
Yeah.
that does it. That does it. So, what's the long term goal for you, and like, where do you hope to take things in the near or distant future?
Hmm. Well, I haven't really. Well, I think Headbanger's Kitchen sort of threw me a curveball and
Hmm.
changed my life in a way I did not expect.
Hmm.
All my goals were music oriented. But now that I'm doing this full time, I'm kind of thinking, okay, I'm gonna. I think that's the thing you can't really predict, but like what I would like to do in 5 years is to make sure that Headbanger's Kitchen is still running and I'm
Hmm.
able to sort of have it in a place where it is um, able to sort of sustain me
Hmm.
financially, with enough time for me to do whatever else I want on the side and just sort of I like the way it's going right now, but obviously we don't know what the future is going to bring. But at least till I can run it this way, I would love to do that.
Hmm.
And then of course we'll see how things go. What happens to keto, what happens to food, what happens
Hmm.
to YouTube,
Sure.
and hopefully, yeah, I will be able to still keep enjoying myself,
Hmm.
enjoy life, have good food, have good times, and yeah, take it
Hmm.
as it comes. Get
Sure.
fitter, get
So,
better.
like, let's say something keto sort of moves on and morphs into something else. Are you willing to pivot the direction of Headbanger's Kitchen to, well, whatever your personal philosophy is at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I guess even Headbangers Kitchen will evolve with me. I guess
Hmm.
I'm keto now. Am I going to be keto 5 years from now? Am I going to be keto 10 years from now? You know, what is what is the future going to hold? Because, like I said, fitness is forever.
Hmm.
And we keep getting new research,
Hmm.
new studies, new information. Um, but I think for me, the constant is going to be good food more
Sure.
than anything else,
Hmm.
because good food is forever.
That's right. That's great. Now, this is something I ask often of my guests. If you had one message you can share with all musicians, what would it be?
Hmm. Oh boy, with all musicians,
Yeah, because that's primarily the audience. It could be with all
yes.
people too, but in particular, what would you share with musicians?
I guess you know. Try not to get caught up in the numbers game that the world has thrown at us musicians now. For follow your intuition when writing music. Do the music for the love you had when you first started out.
Hmm.
I think that is important because I know I definitely need to maybe revisit why I started playing music and go back to that feeling. Sometimes when you've progressed so far and you've been doing it for a long time, you might get way too caught up in the numbers game, or how many people should be listening to your band, or how many likes you have on your Facebook page, and the engagement and this and that. Sometimes you just need to step back and just play music because you want to.
Awesome. Awesome. Sahil, it's been awesome having you on, and I hope to reconnect with you soon.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. I'll
Thank
see
you
you
so
soon.
much. I will see you soon.
All right.
Awesome. Cheers.
Cheers.